Good late afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, it's my pleasure to introduce another interesting speakers, Pavla Holcová and Stevan Dojčinovič. Pavla Holcová is the founder of Czech Center for Investigative Journalism, and she has investigated a lot of cases concerning Serbian organized crime figures. Macedonian Secret Service investment in Prague, money laundering, offshore companies. A few hours ago, we had a really hot discussion about Panama Papers. She's also a recipient of famous journalist awards, including the Global Shining Light Award and European Union Investigative Journalist Prize. And what is important is that she works very closely with the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP, together with her colleague Stevan Dojčinovič, who is originally from Serbia. And these two guys, they prepare for you, I hope, interesting presentation about money laundering. So, welcome at HCPP, and it's your turn.
Hey. Okay. I am the main person who's going to talk here, and I'm going to talk because we do a lot of organized crime and a lot of corruption. So I'm going to show you today how the system of money laundering works. If I understand it right, that you need to understand the system to fight the system. So I'm going to explain you what we've learned the difficult way, and I will show you actually how does the money laundering works. I hope you won't abuse it, because we are actually going to show you the system, how to launder money that we as investigative journalists won't be able to crack. Let me start with one picture. And that's this one. It's actually a room full of money. Altogether, it was something like 22 billion of US dollars. And that's the thing that all the crime has in common. Not all the crime, but most of the crime. And this is plenty of cash. If you've seen Narcos on Netflix, or if you've seen other movies that were actually dealing with cocaine and a lot of money, you've seen they had one major problem, and that was they had so much of a cash. They have no ways how to launder such a money. It happened to Miami as well in 70s when the cocaine trade boomed in Miami. Actually, the banks, they didn't have enough space where to store the money from the cocaine. It's not only about the drugs, the cash. You can see plenty, the so-called the cash issue with other crime as well. For example, terrorism quite often is on some of the levels happening in cash. Corruption is happening in cash. And what you need to do once you have such an enormous amount of cash, you need to launder it. You need to make it look legal. If you will have any questions during the presentation, please, I can't really see you because there's this strong light, but so wave your hands and you can come with your questions. Okay, so we are going to show you what to do with large amounts of cash and how to launder it. Sometimes you have it even at some bank account that is officially not yours, so how to make it that you will be the beneficial owner of the real money. Is anyone talking? No? Okay. If you have any ideas how to launder money, and we are not talking about cryptocurrencies or the new ways how to launder money, we are talking about old school, because that's exposing how the system that is supposed to watch that our money are safe, how it is not working at all. So what are the basic tools? Well, actually, no, let's start with a different question. And that is, when exactly the money are laundered? Do you have any ideas? You need to shout, sorry. No. Well, yes.
My guess, if I can answer to this question,
Yes,
money are
Jonah.
clean if there is no visible transaction history in the past.
No, it's even easier.
Yeah, okay.
Well, actually, the money is laundered when it enters official financial system. What means when you have the money on a bank account, then it's laundered. Because actually the bank is the one who should say, oh, this is a suspicious transaction, we are not receiving it on the bank account. But we got to the final point, and let's start from the beginning. Do you have any comment too? No. Okay, how to clean them? You need a couple of tools that are already there to clean the money. The first thing you need is actually anonymity. If you have such a large amount of cash or any money, you don't quite often be connected to those money, because this is dirty money. It's coming from the crime. It could be child pornography, it could be drugs, it could be some terrorist act, whatever. And you need to hide that you are beneficial owner. Anyone has a guess, what is this island there? It's actually, no. No? Vanuatu. Have you ever heard of Vanuatu? So it's a beautiful island, and it's actually one of the hubs for offshore, when you can collect almost any information on the real owner of the companies. In Vanuatu, there's one family based, actually all this kind of offshore business, it's run only by something like 30 people. Altogether, it's like only a couple of families. It's really like the top players of the money laundering and offshore business. It's just a couple of families. There's one, including one lawyer based in Liechtenstein who was born in Slovakia. But the others, one of the families, Taylor family, Ian Taylor is the main guy, is living at Vanuatu, officially living at Vanuatu. They are forming companies that actually, through those companies, arms are delivered to North Korea through Vanuatu-based companies that the Taylor family had established. The Mexican narco cartels are laundering money, and also money are siphoned off Russian state budget through the Taylor companies. They are not having only one company, they have chain of companies, and usually at the end of the chain there's a company where that doesn't include the information who's the beneficial owner. So that's first, we need to hide that we are beneficial owners, and we can do it ourselves, or we just ask someone to help us and pay them. Then we are talking about proxies. Proxy, it's someone like a proxy server, but a human one. Usually, you don't want to leave any trace at all that you are connected to the company that is actually doing the money laundering for you, or where you store the money or deposit the money. So what you can do is to hire some people who will pretend that they are the beneficial owners for you. How to do it? Couple of ways how to do it. One is better than the other. The first one that is really used is identity theft. I guess at least some of you have a copy of your passport on your computer. I do. This is the easiest way. You just steal someone's passport, and at some countries, to establish a company, the copy of the passport is enough. Then, that's why the upset lady is there, and it happened in Romania, actually. there was an agency putting up advertisements in remote area of Ukraine for cleaning ladies, that they would have a nice salary and they can work in Romania as a cleaning ladies. They will earn much more money in Romania than they actually do earn in Ukraine. Those ladies came to Romania and they started to work as a cleaning ladies, and after a couple of weeks, the one who hired them said, hey, and we have contracts for you because you can't stay here and just clean. You need to have a contract, and then we will ask for presidency and so on. And they started to sign the contracts that they were not able to read because Ukraine has different alphabet than in Romania. So they were just signing the documents without actually understanding what's in there. And that's how they became the directors and shareholders of the Romanian companies that were involved in crime. And they were responsible for those crimes. The second type of proxies are professionals. In Spanish, this is called testaferro or prestanombre, what means that you are actually renting your identity to hide real owners of the company. It's normal business. It's super popular in Switzerland and in other countries as well, in Panama, by the way. And you actually act on behalf of someone, and you don't tell anyone. Quite often, you don't even know who is the real beneficial owner of the company for whom you are the proxy. What is important to say here, how to do it that the proxy wouldn't steal your company if he's going to be the one who is legally responsible, having all the signatures and his name and identity details on the contracts. There's a simple tool for it. You will get a paper that's saying, I, name of the proxy, date of birth, am quitting the company and its shares. It's all verified by the notary. The only thing that's missing is the date. So you, as a real beneficial owner, you're safe because you have the paper, and if the proxy would steal the company, you can go to the court if you are brave enough, and if there's not such a big deal, and show them, okay, he was not able to act like he did because he was not already the director or the beneficial owner of the company. Okay, and the third one, what is the most problematic for us as a journalist? Those are lawyers. You can see that plenty of politicians worldwide, they have their favorite lawyers, and they are quite often kind of shareholders and directors of their companies. And once this is done, we are really not able to break it because they have a full trust of those politicians, and then they don't break the trust because quite often they would die once they break the trust. So far, there are still countries like Azerbaijan when they have something we call trust issue. They don't trust anyone that they wouldn't steal the companies, so they put their names directly. It's a great benefit of the presidential family of Azerbaijan, the Aliyev family. They just don't trust anyone, so they put their names and names of their daughters to be the shareholders of the companies. They just do it via offshore companies, and they believe that the journalists will never be able to track them down. Still nothing? No. Then we have the third tool you can use, and those are formation agents. It could be challenging for anyone, actually, to set up a company in Panama or in Belize or anywhere else, but actually you can buy one that is already there, that looks like it's already for 5 years in the business, and it actually takes something like 4 clicks by the mouse and around $1,500 US, and you can buy a company that's already there, and actually make a whole chain of companies, and they will also offer you the nominee service. What is that they will offer you, that they have their own proxies who could be there for you in the company. They are especially big in London. London formation agents industry is one of the biggest in the world. And then we are actually getting to the first point, the banks. Banks are supposed to be the strongest tool to stop money laundering. They are not, because they need the money to operate. So sometimes they are quite happy. They are receiving large amounts of money and they don't ask many questions. You can see it on a couple of the cases, couple of the leaks like HSBC, Wachovia Bank, Danske Bank, Deutsche Bank, and many others. Now I will be happy to give a word to Stefan.
Okay, so I'll just continue when Pavla starts, but for every process of money laundering, the most sensitive is this part. So you have a cash, and then you need to find a way how to basically enter the bank with this cash, right? And then you have another steps where you do a lot of different transactions in order to hide the origin of the money. Because that's the whole point, that in the end, when somebody look at your money, you know, and your accounts, that cannot really figure out where the origin of the money is, and also that you, if you're a really good professional, it will show some kind of fake of origin. So when somebody check your account, and the money that you have is earned from drug smuggling, that you can kind of basically fake it in a way that it looks like that you get this money from some legitimate business deal. That's the thing. So in most of the countries, basically, there is a set of rules that are given to the bank, which bank needs to follow in order to stop money laundering. So for instance, in many countries, it's not possible to pay and bring more than 5,000 euros of cash into the bank without giving documents about yourself, and also, like, of course, about origin of this money. Right.
Yeah, it's everywhere except Dubai.
Okay, I didn't know this. Pavla is more as a book for these facts, but yes. And even like even if you kind of want to cut a big portion of money in the small amounts of like 4,000 and bringing like every day, that's also not possible, because also these rules really go into detail. So they'll say if this same person appears so much time bringing so much cash, it's also suspicious. So basically there's like really strong rules, but the problem is that most of the banks actually doesn't oblige to these rules. And we hit this problem, and we reported in many countries stories are basically about the bank, how basically they get close to some clients who are usually were some big or drug dealers or politicians who stole a lot of money, and they avoid to basically go against the rules. Because when the banks see this, first thing that banks do, it must inform institution, which we have in almost every country. Pavla, no, the right figure, right? It's usually some kind of institution that is usually inside of the Ministry of Finance, and it's called Anti-Money Laundering Commission, or some kind of like this. So basically this institution is there to be in contact with the banks, and then banks should inform the institution, oh, this is really weird behavior of these individuals bringing this money, and then basically this institution should continue to investigate who these people are and so on. So I don't know, like
they have usually 5 working days to investigate if the payment was okay or not. So
they even can frozen your account, so if they find some suspicion, they can.
Yeah. What happened to me recently, I was sending some money to Colombia. You can't send money directly to Colombia. It must go through clearing bank, so it went through Switzerland and then to Colombia. And I was sending it to my friend, who actually gave me the data about his bank account in a proper way, because he's receiving money from abroad. The money didn't arrive there, and it took 1 month before they told me, okay, we canceled the payment and we are out of 100 euros, we are keeping 90, because we made an attempt, but the account doesn't exist. So still I need to investigate why they kept the money.
But in general, the banks are the first wall to stop this thing, and usually this doesn't work. The banks doesn't report to the state for these problems. Of course, in corrupt countries who are like in problem with corruption, even if the bank reports, then maybe you will have corruption issue in this law enforcement who also not investigate, right? So the corruption always go together with this. Usually criminals or wealthy politicians use their position or money also to corrupt the system, not to work.
And sometimes the mobsters, the mafia people, they have their own banks. And of course, their own banks do not report on them.
Yeah, they establish and open literally the bank. So when the money is basically on the bank accounts, usually it's splitted on many bank accounts. Like we had one case of one Serbian drug dealer who only to place 200,000 euros, which is not big amount for this kind of players. For them, that's small money. They opened 27 accounts on 27 different persons. And then they split this money and basically place on this account. After that, usually they will group this money into one, and then they will send it outside of the country, and this money will be wired through many different countries. So like similar like the Tor network is working when you have Tor browser, you know. So just the money is going around and just, you know, come back inside of your country. So basically this is how it goes. And this is the importance of offshore companies is because they are in this between of the process. You know, after money left the country and before it returns. And offshore company, actually the whole point is just to secure hidden the owner. That's, like Pavla said, the most important element. The problem, as we see kind of as a wider picture, that now around the world the situation becomes more bizarre, that like it seems that in many countries somehow the criminals are allowed to take important position inside of the government. So we now kind of have this process of criminals becoming officials, you know, and then after that they start reshaping the laws in order to make crime more legal. So this is like really wider picture. I'll just tell you one really bizarre case in Serbia. It's really crazy. So one of the most professional money laundering in our country, it's called Siniša Mali, is a guy who had like really long history like in establishing offshore companies and laundering money for different players. He was named as a mayor of Belgrade in 2014, so he became official, you know. And it was already known in public who this guy is. When he became mayor, we managed to discover one of his deals, which he did in that time. And he basically established 2 offshore companies on British Virgin Island, which is known for like really keeping the secrecy of ownership. And then, most likely from stolen money from Serbia, he appeared in Bulgaria and bought 24 luxury apartments on Bulgarian coast. It was around $5 million deal. So there was $5 million which he couldn't have according to all his salary and the money that we can. So he appeared with 5 million and bought the whole building on the coast. So we basically report this case in public. It is a very known case in Serbia and made a like really big mess. And even after that, he was investigated by Anti-Money Laundering Commission. So it's Serbian authority that deals with money laundering. And basically this institution cannot arrest you or nothing. They can investigate your deal and then they report you to the prosecutor who's supposed to act. They investigate him, they report to prosecutor, and prosecutor said they don't see any money laundering here. But actually what happened? We were leaked the report of this institution, and actually from this report you can see that this institution clearly thinks that he committed money laundering on many levels, not just the deals that we discover as a journalist, but
maybe you should also mention his explanation.
Oh, okay, but we'll come to that. But the whole point is, so we have this state institution who really discovered that he committed many money laundering crimes. I think there was like 5 or 6 cases, we published this report and everything, where he committed money laundering. And since the prosecution still didn't want to react because prosecution in Serbia is completely under political control. And what happened, still the story we published kind of made a big mess into the public. So the president fired him for being a mayor, And then in one moment we thought we managed to do something really, but then next month he was appointed as a Minister of Finance, and he's today Minister of Finance. So we call this, you let fox to go into, where you have your chickens, And what is funniest about this case, Minister of Finance is directly responsible, and he appoints and controls the Director of Anti-Money Laundering Commission. So they investigate him, they give him full control over this. And the funniest part, actually, in public, when we published story, he made press conferences, and we get all these documents who clearly show that he signed them as a director of these offshore companies in Bulgaria, and we have like 20 documents. And he went to the public, and he says, it was not me. Somebody appeared in Bulgarian and forged my signature. That was his explanation, which is pretty bizarre. Then we even hired a graphologist who proved that most likely it's basically his signature. And I mean, this is out of the question. But since, a lot of things change worldwide, and now kind of information, especially fact-checked and proved information, documents kind of lose a value in terms of the wider audience. And since our government is controlling a lot of the media in Serbia, they start publishing series of articles proving that his signature was, proving without any proof that his signature was forged. So they managed to make kind of this kind of in public to confuse public what is true or not, which is actually the role of this kind of propagandist media, basically to kill the truth, to make you not believe anything. So, this is the case. I'm just showing how it looks really bizarre, but I think Serbia is not the only one here. I think that the world goes in this direction, that these kind of guys who do this kind of business will become the officials. So like money laundering guys will become Minister of Finance, like, I don't know, leaders of groups that doing hits for hire will become Minister of Police, and so on.
Yeah, it's actually another story that was based on this scheme is that the deputy director of anti-corruption unit in Azerbaijan invested over 100 million euros in real estate in Czech Republic. And once again, he says like, okay, prove it. We were able to prove it, but still he sues us, and now we are going to the court because he probably wants to see where did we take the information. But because he's from Azerbaijan and he has the trust issue, we can see his sons in the company. So actually I'm pretty wondering what's going to happen at the court.
But so the thing when the journalists need the help of the technology and tech people is actually that we discovered so many cases of money laundering, if you talk about this crime, which were, all the stories are connected to some specific case. Was it Aliyev's present family, or this guy from Serbia, or a group that launders money from Bolivian organized crime, or wherever. But still, what is not so much discovered that we need to understand more better the patterns itself. So like some kind of like data journalism, which is kind of too big, like a piece of cake that only the journalists can basically deal with it. And this is basically where the tech people should help, because basically it's everything in the end about the patterns, because there's always explanation why some things change. So sometimes some offshore destination is very extremely popular, so everybody goes there, and then suddenly some else, and then moves somewhere else, and there are different ways that were used for money laundering in different specific time, and you will have groups from different parts of the world that use the same model how they do it, and then from some other parts of the world they will use different model. But what we can understand now that there is some patterns where you can follow and kind of combine data about lawyers who are used, companies, destination, that can maybe help us in future to much better understand and also predict money laundering. So, if this works, as soon as some kind of new destination become popular and we can really understand that, we can much faster really start doing stories on these places.
Yeah, I believe that's the general problem of journalism and us as a journalist, that we report on things that already happened. And we just want to move it forward and actually report on the things when they are happening or when they are going to happen. And that's actually the point when we probably need to engage much more with the tech people, because we are able to describe what should be the red flag within the transaction, but we are not able, at least I'm not able, to analyze like hundreds of thousands of transactions to see, hey, it's happening here, watch out.
Yes, so maybe, I don't know
Okay.
what time is now, but maybe for questions or...
Yeah. Actually, it's your time now. You can now ask questions on organized crime, for example.
Thanks a lot for a very interesting discussion. I have just one question. I really like your presentation. I especially admire you that you are focusing in such hard thing like investigation of money laundering. But maybe this is maybe a time just for you to understand the opinions of many people here. Like most of these people are libertarian, and they think that like drugs should be legalized, you know, prostitution should be legalized. So the problem is that the money laundering in these days exists just because we have prohibition of these things, you know. So this is like an artificially generated problem, you know, because when we have like legalized drug, when we have like legalized prostitution, we still probably will have money laundering because of really like crimes with a victim, not victimless crimes, you know. So I think, for example, I think that it is necessary to fight with the money laundering, but especially where there is a victim. I mean, victim in my situation is, for example, child pornography, terrorism. You know, if politicians steal money from some other people, these are really victims. But personally, I have some, I would say, ethical problems or ethical issues with fighting money laundering where it's from like victimless crimes. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I mean, I'm not completely sure for Pavla, but I also agree that drugs should be legalized. It's not the issue also,
okay.
Prostitution. So, and I mean, you can really read a lot of journalists, basically, based books who really detailedly show why this kind of the fight against drug, it doesn't work. Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, on this theoretical level, we agree.
Yeah.
But with the situation, we are stuck now, right?
Yeah.
In some countries, the drugs groups do so much damage,
Violence,
including
of
mine,
course.
that we cannot just kind of doing just theory work and just letting them doing this. So I'm just saying, kind of fighting against even laundering money from drug distribution is kind of more something you do in present terms, right? While you're building the policy for it. That's the thing. Like, so in Serbia, in central Belgrade, every month you'll have 4 mafia assassinations in the center of town. So like the car bomb will explode, you know, somebody will hit with a sniper shot. Sometimes the passers also get injured or hurt. And we have a couple of cases where people got killed sitting there. So at this point, it's important for us, the journalists, to fight, you know, what is on the street. It's like this particular group, but on theoretical level, I think we agree.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think it's really necessary to fight violence, you know, the bad people or people threatening some other people, blackmailing and so on. But it's like we are just trying to solve like meta problem, you know. It's the same situation like now we have like prohibition of alcohol. We have Al Capone. Thanks to the prohibition of alcohol, we have Al Capone, and now we are going to investigate money laundering of Al Capone. Okay, probably it makes sense because Al Capone was really bad guy, but he existed or he started to have power, you know, and he started to make money laundering primarily because of this stupid alcohol prohibition, you know. So
No, I mean, but I agree completely. So I don't know.
yeah, okay. Anyway, questions? Ask. Okay.
Just one short question. Where do you see the value of journalists versus public seeing like the raw data? For example, what WikiLeaks does is they basically dump the information on the public, but what Snowden did with Glenn Greenwald was he gave them the data for the stories to be published. So what's your opinion on that?
I mean, we as a journalist, we are telling stories because there are still many people who can't read the stories simply from the documents. What we really try to do is to tell the stories when people are able to check every phrase that we are saying, and they can analyze if we have built the story correctly and how we did it. But our kind of a role is to get the message to as many people as possible, to all of them who want to read it, to hear it. And we also need to be kind of archive of those stories. So if I would be, for example, someone who is going to do a deal with some big company, and I will find an article, hey, this is like really shady company that, I don't know, killed other companies because they didn't treat them right as a partners, then I can make my decision based on a story that someone published. I could trust it, I don't need to trust it, but the information is there.
And like, for instance, in Panama Papers, you have, I remember cases like there was one guy from Serbia. So he opened a company in Panama and, with a bank in Switzerland, where he wanted to send money, his savings, which are legal savings, so complete legal savings, just to secure it for his son, because I think he was sick or very old or sick, that his son can inherit money. And he didn't trust banks in Serbia, which I understand. I don't trust my own bank in Serbia, right? So this was no any crime, nothing there. So if this was like WikiLeaks, it will be just dumped out in public, and I don't see reason that this person be so much exposed with this kind of thing. So the difference is that we as a journalist who went through all these files, and we were basically looking at every case, doing background checks, and we just exposed in stories the big relevant cases, where the big players with big money, for who we assume that they did some dodgy businesses, legal or illegal, but some weird stuff. And I think this is the biggest difference than WikiLeaks, because I don't think that things would just be dropped, because there will be a lot of collateral victims if you just drop the information out.
Hi. Do you have any information that, I mean, I've heard that some of the large VC funds, who invest billions of dollars, sometimes in tech companies, is there any truth that they are sometimes funded by laundered money? I don't know, maybe, do you have any such information?
You mean laundering money through investing into the startups?
Yes, that the VC
I've
funds...
heard about that it might happen, that it's probably happening, but so far I have no proofs.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, especially you, I especially appreciate that you are doing what you are doing. I mean, responsible disclosure. This is the correct term for probably like analyzing of this. Question?
Yeah, first of all, congratulations. I think this issue of money laundering is a very important issue. I wanted to know if you had looked into the Danske Bank.
Yes.
Because it's, I mean, the impact with everybody who's here in crypto, this bank laundered $234 billion between 2007 and 2015 out of its Estonia branch. And the day that it came out...
They actually laundered much more.
They laundered much more. And I think those are the type of things that this community really wants to be out there, because when they tell us that Bitcoin and crypto is laundering money, that day, all of the market cap of 1,977 cryptos was $190 billion. And these guys had laundered 234 billion, as you say, much more. So I really think that these are really the 100-story building that passed by and nobody saw, that we really, really have to put out there, and somebody should go to jail for this.
Actually, just about a month ago, the CEO of Danske Bank was forced to resign, and probably he will end up in jail. We've been looking at the Danske Bank. All the Azerbaijani laundromat series of stories was based on the Estonian branch, and we are still finding stories there, so it's still ongoing project.
I just would like to add that many people here, like crypto people, they don't consider it to be fair that the governments consider Bitcoin and crypto to be like, it has to be regulated because now we have a stupid KYC ML process on crypto exchanges, and we have to follow all these KYC ML rules. So this crypto community is really highly regulated because the government thinks people use crypto for laundering. And we can see on the other hand that there is like a Danske Bank which did like a much bigger laundering, and no one cares. You know, the guy behind this bank, he just resigned. That's all. You know, so this is not this is something that is not perceived like very fair approach. You know, especially for people from crypto community.
We are working on it.
Okay. Okay. Questions.
Yeah, thank you. I have one comment and one question. This is related to the talk by Todd Weaver today, because he was talking about how people are lazy and they prefer convenience and they don't mind to be controlled by tech companies. And this is related to what you are talking about. The problem is that when a good journalist opens some case that some politician steals a lot of money, this politician can be so brave, can be so tricky and so handy, then he is still voted by the majority of the population. The case is our prime minister. And the question is, if you come to a bank, how do you get the information from the bank? You say, I have some information that this client is doing something wrong. How do you get the information from the bank?
It's super difficult. And how we got the data from the Danske Bank, for example, was that they had real issues. There were rumors that they are actually laundering money from Azerbaijan. And so our colleague from Denmark, she made a list of people who she can approach to ask, hey, what was going on there? Could you share at least sample of the data? And she went knocking on a door of people there. And 1 out of 10 opened the door and said, yeah, I will let you know.
Okay.
That's how we got it.
Okay.
Thank you for your talk. I have to say, I mean, you're pretty brave. So, you know, you pissed off Azerbaijani kleptocrats, you pissed off a bunch of Serbians.
I pissed off Slovaks.
You pissed off Slovaks. I mean, you know, you got 20, 30 years of journalism to go. So, you know, you'll piss off thousands of very powerful, armed people with tons of money. So, you know, what keeps you going?
I mean, we are a network. We are a network of journalists, and we trust each other, and one is down, the others will hold him up. So the people I am working with are really great, really smart, and they keep me motivated. I don't know, maybe Stefan has different opinion, like money.
No, there's not much money, of course, in our industry. Let's say it's not even industry. So like Pavla said, yeah, we had really big support inside of our network, and we support each other, which is very important. And second thing is, the job is interesting itself. Like, you know, I don't know if you, I like to watch also Netflix shows, you know, so when you saw these shows about gangster, it's like you watch the show but real time, you investigate them. So also, the job is self-rewarding, you know, because it's so if you like it, it's so cool that you really just, no matter is it dangerous or not, you just want to continue working it.
Yeah, there's a really special feeling when the things start to make sense. And that's probably also it's kind of a hype, really.
It's something like orgasm inside of the journalism. When you find this document, no really, you're looking for documents for like 6 months, and then you finally manage to get this thing that proves everything, you know. So it's really hard to explaining this kind of your body reaction and enjoyment or shock you get in that moment.
I have a question. So there are a lot of people here sitting, and most of these people are really good in crypto with a deep knowledge, cryptocurrencies, privacy, anonymization. So my question is, and I think many of them probably want to help you. So how all these people, or some of these people, can help you if they want?
Well, I think this is a big problem. First of all, we as a journalists not so advanced with new technologies. And other way, new technologies can help a lot our work and in general, like exposing corruption. And I think still we have in OCRP, in our network, we have also people who are from IT sector, who are like hackers, and the guys who, and we cooperate, but I think still it's not enough.
We cooperate, but usually they are just pushing us to use encryption. That's the cooperation.
Mostly they mostly helping us securing our communication. But I think more important, what still is not happening now, it's kind of that you help us in kind of more exploring, analyzing, and understanding our data, and learning. So this is what is missing. So it's not easy to solve, but I guess it will be good in the future. We have more kind of some kind of like joint conference between like investigative journalism and I think that will be kind of pretty fun to have all the people in one place where we can also have times discussion.
And if it won't be recorded, it would also help.
Yeah.
But I think this is for sure issue that can kind of move things much forward if it's possible that this cooperation really happened.
Okay, we have time probably for last one or two questions. So, okay.
So we learned a bit about how to launder cash. What kind of trends do you see coming from the crypto side as far as laundering?
Well, what I have discovered, and I can't really move forward, is that Drangheta has their own cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I checked this cryptocurrency, but no one from crypto community knows this cryptocurrency.
That's the beauty of it, right?
I don't know, because it has quite low liquidity, if doesn't...
It has low liquidity and it's invite only, but within the community it could work
probably,
well, right?
Maybe it's probably used by members of this group, yeah. But the problem of any cryptocurrency is with low liquidity is that, you cannot change it to enough people,
That's exactly what they want. They have limited people, limited amount of people who can use it. But the value in it is that, hey, I have it, so now you owe me. That's how I understand it, at least.
Okay, definitely last question.
Sorry, just to add one small interesting story about how the mafia use cryptocurrency, but not to launder money. It's very, because like organized crimes, actually, they're pretty much coming, whenever something new was discovered, they really know how to, and they hire right people to understand how to use it.
They are much faster than us.
And like in Serbia, like organized crime gets a lot of money from crypto mining, basically. And how they do it? Because there is Kosovo, which is still not recognized by Serbia, but actually, factually, it is independent state, but Serbia officially doesn't recognize it. So basically, the people on the north part of the Kosovo, where Serbians mostly live, they still use electricity from the capital, from Belgrade.
Yeah.
But they don't pay for this electricity. So the organized crime really literally, they understand, oh, it's cool. So we basically, don't pay nothing. We have free electricity. So there's places where like organized crime figures who usually do like drug smuggling, they open like places and hire people and just to do like mining, literally. And they make good cash also from it.
Yeah, actually this is one of the trends that more and more organized crime is investing in green energy, also probably to mine cryptocurrencies. They're going green, really.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like in this story I'm telling, like this is one of the stories where we also as a journalist understand that we need some help outside of journalism to really prove this kind of issues. You have witnesses, all the stuff, but we don't know if it's possible actually to prove it doing some other way, like,
Like for us, like a crypto people, it definitely makes sense if you have a lot of money just to buy like some crypto mining hardware and mine a lot of money, and you automatically gain like a new clean crypto money. We used to call it like virgin coins, with no transaction history. Okay, the last question.
Yeah, my question is, what techniques are you using to anonymize your sources? I mean, like, I've looked at your website, and you're not running a submission system like Global Leaks or Secure Drop. You're simply saying, like, send us this by email, or So my question is, how are you going to make sure that your sources are staying anonymous?
On OCCRP website, there's secure drop and global leak as well. So you can drop any documents there.
Yeah, it basically works in such a way that you have like a Tor hidden service address, and you know the PGP key of the opposite side. So you need to firstly encrypt it with the public key of the organization, and then you can upload it through Tor hidden to the Tor hidden service through Tor. So it should be like really secure.
And you can find my PGP key on MIT server. Upload it.
Okay. So thanks a lot for coming here, for having interesting discussion. Thank you also to audience for having questions and for coming. Thank you. Anyway, one important information. So in few minutes,